I went to get a haircut yesterday, and I'm not gonna do the meme. Yes, I was very tired. I am very tired today as well, but I was very tired, and I was like, you know what? I just sat back in the chair. I'm like, do whatever. I'm just gonna kind of like doze off. And that's what I did. And then I kind of came to, and I realized that this motherfucker. By the way, I went in and it was my favorite barber's there, and he has his son there or some younger relative. I don't fucking know. And he was like, "Oh, but he's good. Let him cut it this time." I was like, "All right, whatever. Yeah,
boy.
let the kid fucking cut my hair." So the kid comes and cuts my hair, and he does a very good job. But this dude's been watching too much TikTok or something, because the way he cut my hair was he kept the top too long and shortened the sides a bit too much. And like I can't describe it exactly, but he like doubled up on the layers on my hair.
So fade is even more intense. But your hair on top,
No.
does it like, did he leave a lot of bangs?
No, he left too much on top, and it's not that he knew that, because the guy was like, the doctor doesn't like the fade. I was like, yes, exactly, the doctor doesn't like the fade, so no fade. But he didn't give me a fade, but he still like did it so it was still too much hair on the top, and he put this fucking curling shit in my hair. So now I have the straight up not bussin' fucking hair on top, and I had to go into work this morning. As one of these fucking people.
What Akeem is trying to say is that he looks like me now.
Basically.
I don't know.
Which honestly is a
It's like as if your haircutters like watch the show or something, because last time you went to a barber, they made you look like me. Now they made you look like JT. The next time they're gonna make you look like JT's 3-month-old daughter.
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah. Just nice wisps of hair.
Exactly.
And just, yeah, you know, like lightly pigmented. I'm like, what the fuck is this? But anyways, so that was number one. Number two, I happened to see a fucking transformer in disguise today. And I was working. I'll clarify.
Did the guy turn it into a car? Yeah.
No, but basically,
a car turned into a guy.
All right, hold on. So we have this man who was coming for something else in the hospital, but in the waiting room area, he basically like became unresponsive, and some hysterical person came, and then they grabbed me and pulled me out of where I was, and like, oh, I don't know what's happening. So I was like, all right, let me take a look at him, whatever. Anyway, so I was like, all right, he needs to come to the emergency ward. So we took him there, and this was a man who otherwise is usually in a wheelchair or has limited mobility, and this is a very rotund gentleman, very much heavier set, older man as well. As he's slowly coming to, we take him in as an emergency. And because he's so heavy, I'm not trying to, he's very heavy, and it's very hard to get him on the bed, right? Yeah. And at first we were trying to lift, and I throw on my fucking back trying to lift this guy out. And then one of these nurses afterwards comes in with this thing I've never seen before. It's like a little car, and then it opens up into like a thing with a hook, and it has like kind of like a upside down parachute, and you shift the person onto this, and it will like magically levitate them into the air, right? Completely effortlessly.
Fucking Transformer. Right? Now I get the reference.
Basically, yeah, and I'm like, where the fuck was this when the guy came in? You saw the guy. You saw this dude is like 300 kilos. Again, no offense to the man.
You wanted to watch you struggle.
Yeah. But you wanted to see me nearly kill myself. By the way, my leg almost gave way. If there wasn't 3 other people helping me lift this dude and he fell onto me, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, fuck. It sounds like one of those things that's used to lift engines out of cars, like a little joist thingy.
It does actually. It kind of looked like that too, but I think it has a nicer finish for people. I have no idea.
Oh, the homie lifter. All right, nice.
The homie lifter.
Beautiful.
Fuck. Very roundabout. Very roundabout. Long story.
Thank God you didn't break your leg or something, because imagine having a lifelong limp and having to explain to everyone, "Oh, sir, why do you have a limp?" A fat guy.
Well, speaking of snapping your shit up, I started working out again, and it's been a while this time since last time. I tried to stay healthy, but with the baby, it's been a lot. So I started working out again, and I did deadlifts 2 days ago, and my brothers, I am walking slowly and like bending over very gingerly. For our dear listeners, if you don't know, proper deadlift form is to grab it closer to one end than the other, scream, jerk upright very quickly, and twist your back at the same time. So that's my professional advice.
Exactly right. Hey, nothing wrong with it. Just please be careful. Don't hurt yourself.
No, I'm very careful. I'm getting to the age where I'm like, man, I feel a new twinge. I'm like, oh, is this one permanent?
Yeah. I had like a weird pain in my bottom right abdomen for like a straight week. And after day 2, 3, I was like, Jesus Christ, is this the fucking liver, bro? Or it could be the what the fucking appendix, because I eat a lot of sunflower seeds or whatever. But then I touched my rib a bit, and then I remembered that I got a bit rough with some friends at a party. I don't know, doing stupid man cave stuff, and he kind of hit my rib a bit more. So it was my rib that was in pain, not necessarily the organs underneath it, or maybe just the organs underneath it are very quiet and polite about it. But now at one point, I don't think we're there yet, but at one point in life, everybody that's like over 35 keeps telling me that every single guy lives with at least 1 or 2 acute pains that they are hoping will go away eventually, you know? And depending on how embarrassing it is, they might go to the doctor and actually explain it away. But for example, if they have like an itchy butthole for like 3 months straight, they're like, I would rather have an itchy butthole than go and show my butthole to someone else.
To me.
A typical guy thing. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then the doctor goes on a podcast and talks about how big my balls are. So, like, if anything, this podcast will dissuade people from going to the doctors like forever. I'm kidding. No, everything is kept anonymously, obviously, but it's wild. I still am not. Are you guys in that phase where like your back hurts randomly? It does for me, but maybe like 2-3 days a month max, and I always understand why it was the case. I drove with an open window in the car, or I worked from the sofa or something stupid like that, but not more than that. But I already see some of my friends complaining about how, oh, the leg hurts, oh, I'm getting cramps, oh my god, this or that. Is that the case with you guys?
I've got I've had it for quite a number of years now, but just like scapula pain in my right shoulder area. But that's just because I have weak shoulders, and it's something that I can kind of work on in the gym. But of course, lifting stuff also makes it flare up. So there's a no-win situation there for me, unfortunately.
Shit.
But no like old person back pain, thankfully.
Likewise, I used to have, even when I was fairly young, I used to get a lot of back pain because of stupid shit. But then ever since I started taking better care of myself, it was weird to say as a youngish person, but yeah, you know what I mean. No more pains. Nah, I have weird like migraine bullshit and headache bullshit that I've had forever, but that's about it.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. You gotta take care of yourself to the best of your ability, and it pains me to admit it, but doing healthy things like exercise does indeed improve your physical health and your mental health. So, sorry.
Exactly right. Speaking of which, JT, what did you have for lunch today exactly? What was that? Barbecue chicken what?
A buffalo chicken pizza. Thank you very much.
Exactly. There you go.
But it was a small one. It was a personal one.
No. Yeah, small personal for America. That you could feel a village in Peru with.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 5th installment of arguably the most original online politics show out there. Send nudes. News. Today we have death, war, right-wingers, virtue signaling liberals, and, of course, the French.
Oh, Lord. What's different? It was the worst thing you said on that list.
Starting off, death. Much better than the French. Today at 12 a.m. local time, China's former chairman, Jiang Zemin, passed away at 96. State broadcaster CCTV lauded his role after the 1989 protests in and around Beijing, called Tiananmen Square protests by the West. Continuing the quote, during the serious political turmoil in China in the spring and summer of 1989, Comrade Zemin supported and implemented the correct decision of the party Central Committee to oppose unrest, defend the socialist state power, and safeguard the fundamental interests of the people. The event sparked a bitter power struggle at the top of the Communist Party between what the CNN calls hardline reactionaries, literally they use hardline reactionaries, referring to anti-reformists and reformists. It led to Chiang to being elevated to high office. He was chosen as a compromise leader, according to them, in the hope he would unify hardliners and more liberal elements. Under his stewardship, a formidable economy was forged, the Communists tightened their grip on power, and China took its place at the top table of all world powers. He oversaw the peaceful handover of Hong Kong in 1997 and China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001. In his later years, he withdrew from government and was rarely seen in public, but even as he became less conspicuous, online he became an unlikely subject of viral internet meme celebrity status. Many Chinese affectionately caricatured his signature large spectacles and likened his appearance to a toad. Young fans called themselves toad worshippers. You see how in the West there's we have obviously the toad, but very connected to right-wing shit. The Chinese have a toad, but connected to a comrade, and not in a negative way, but kind of in an appreciative little Gen Z approach, I guess. Every Western article, honestly, that I read on the late chairman's death showed me how they're salivating at the idea of further Chinese destabilization. Tiananmen protests came after the death of a party chief, and now the protests over COVID policies are making the BBC and CNN leak pre-cum at the thought of mass national upheaval. A classic, I guess. So, what do you guys think about Chairman Zemin? And do you think he left this world seeing a China he gladly gave his life for, or not?
I would say so. I don't think you could be a Chinese politician, especially of that era, of, you know, like that first generation, and looking at China and how it is right now. You can't just look back just in sheer pride over what you achieved as a, you know, of course, as you know, stumble across the way, and then there's some drawbacks and mistakes, etc., as with any attempt. But the sheer, like the amazing things that they've achieved is insane. The most important things, of course, I would say, from the inside, I guess not as us looking from the outside, but within China, I would say it would probably be the peaceful handover of Hong Kong, which basically is returning it. That's like basically somebody overseeing the peaceful handover of Palestine. In like that's an insane achievement. To us, it's not that, because but Hong Kong has been a colony for as long as, longer than living memory at this point. Before it was handed over. That's number one. Number two, entry of China into the World Trade Organization, which was, I think, the final step to breaking the isolationism post Sino-Soviet split. And then finally, the relatively peaceful ways of dealing with the first 1986 protests, and then afterwards the 89 student protests, which we should probably do a dedicated episode on at some point. But overall, I think a decent legacy to have left over. And I love, by the way, in the BBC, they quote one of these opportunistic douche dissidents from the Tiananmen Square era, and he's like, he wants to look open-minded, but in fact, he's always been a political conservative. He wants to bring back China's economy towards a planned economy, and he's saying this like as if this is a bad thing. Pretty based. Overall, pretty based.
Yeah, but I think, you've all brought up important points, but I think the most important thing to remember is that he was a goofy little guy, and he liked to wear funny hats, and he liked to float in the ocean, and there are beautiful pictures of him doing both things. So to raise a glass to Comrade Jiang, long life, good legacy, goofy guy. What more could you ask for?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say one more thing, is that the fact that he was incredibly competent, not only politician, but also as a human being, he's very well-rounded. He spoke like 7 languages fluently and all that. He apparently won speech he gave in Chile in the early 2000s. He lands and then he gives a 40-minute speech in Spanish, and people didn't know he ever spoke Spanish,
so cool.
which is pretty much of a vibe. I don't think I could. I can't just go land in the Congo and be like, oh yeah, Swahili. But yeah, sorry, go on.
No, one of my favorite videos of him is him just going off at a journalist that later in life actually became a Trump supporter, ironically. But back then was a Chinese dissident journalist or whatever. And he literally talks to her in like 3-4 languages, and as politely as possible, but also as passionately as possible, tells her that while you have the ability to pose these questions and you have the ability to introduce new schools of thought to your audiences as a journalist, most of the questions that you pose to us, your leadership, etc., we have already processed and already thought about 1,000 million times. And the naivety from which you come might originally, this naivety, be be coming from a good place, but it eventually leads to a very, very dark road, kind of showing the wisdom of free speech good, but as Mao once said, free speech only when you know what you say, brah. To my opinion, somebody who was, Americans say make lemonade out of lemon. This guy made lemonade out of a fucking crumbling international world order, and it was a pretty decent lemonade as compared to what could have come out of that situation. And arguably, we could, right now, be sitting and talking about a country that doesn't even exist if it wasn't for particular leaders of that time who managed to hold it all together. So yeah, RIP.
All right, in some domestic news, you've probably heard a little bit about this over the course of the year. There's been a big rail strike going on where union rail workers have been demanding time off, better wages, better conditions, the usual things that one would expect in any civilized country. But of course, they don't have that. So this has been going on for about a year, and it kind of died down a little bit when there was a tentative agreement reached with some of the unions. But that agreement has been turned down by 2 of the 3 largest rail unions in the country. And now it's threatening to do some serious damage to the economy, which has got all the pundits and political commentators in quite a tizzy, including President Joe Biden, supposedly the most pro-labor president since FDR.
Oh, yes.
Of course.
So, obviously.
Yeah, so how about that? So when push comes to shove, he's not actually going to stand up for the people he claims to care about.
Oh boy, who would have thunk? Who
could have possibly correctly identified him?
Oh man.
But Pelosi has also been on the floor today, I think, saying that it's, quote, outrageous that workers don't have paid sick leave, while
I wish it was literally on the floor, but all right.
While also saying that the consequences of a shutdown would be catastrophic to the economy. So that's pretty much the Democratic Party in a nutshell. They're saying they'll pay lip service to all these labor movements or whatever is the current thing, and yet do nothing. It's empty symbols, empty gestures versus actual change. And Biden has been pushing to get Congress to side with the rail bosses over the union leaders, over the issue of paid sick days. All they're asking for is, some time off. That's not unreasonable, especially in the industry that they're in. It's very dangerous. It's very critical to the economy. They have tremendous power here to shut down the economy. And so it would not seem unreasonable for Biden to give them a few days off. But what he has suggested is one single day, and that's the best. That is the most pro-labor president can offer. You've got a few people like Bernie and some Republicans flanking Biden to the left and offering 7 days. But frankly, the rail, the union workers should shut down the economy. They have tremendous power. They need to use it.
I was gonna say two things. The first of which is, imagine if they do actually decide to shut down the railroads and cause like some massive economic downturn in the U.S. and then that would be a vibe. But
they would kill them like 2 hours. They would beat the shit out of them. Like they would break their, they would find their mothers and they would beat the shit out of them.
The organizations aren't in place. Yeah, they're gonna be absolutely destroyed. You don't think it's right?
But eventually the railways, and we've got like six. We got like 6 port workers. Looking at you guys.
You know, this is such a... I'm not even going to get into it, but my God, again, the incompetence of the American left at some point. I mean, it's not incompetence. It's been directly engineered like this after over 100 years of red terror. It makes sense, but still. I was going to say, for one of the videos I'm working on currently, I want to do some research into like the subsidies that the American government gives and the leases and basically all the fucking conveniences it gives to big business, right? And if you look at ports or exporters or railroads or logging companies and the amount of shit that the American government, federal government, just gives off for free or for dirt cheap. Did you know that in the US some of the laws and limitations around this stuff is still from 1920 based on 1920 wages and whatnot? So the amount of tax that they have to pay is fucking ridiculous. It's nothing. It's fucking nothing. Oh my God. It's you know, what can you do?
We're number 1.
Yeah, boy, USA. Oh my God.
I love this one quote from CBS News where they're actually quoting a pretty cool dude, conductor Gabe Christensen, who is chairman of the Railroad Workers United Coalition. He said, to kind of reiterate what JT previously said, the most labor-friendly president in history has proven that he and the Democratic Party are not the friends of labor they have touted themselves to be. Said Christensen, whose group encouraged workers to reject these deals, continuing the quote, these wolves in sheep's clothing have for decades been in bed with corporate America and have allowed them to continue chipping away at the American middle class and organized labor. Very close to great class consciousness there, and I understand. Okay, middle class. Maybe he's selling it, upselling it to potential viewers and readers of the article, but not that there has always been and there will always be great potential for both a classical labor movement, but even a proper socialist movement inside of the United States. But as Hakeem said, you guys, while at the same time having the material reality on the ground and having the financial possibility and the infrastructural possibility to establish a very, very healthy version of socialism, you're also the most disadvantaged when it comes to just common class consciousness and common understanding of just how tight the bootsteps on your I almost said small necks, but let's be honest, Americans are not necessarily known for small necks or necks in general. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I had to. I basically have no neck, okay? So I can say. But yeah, mass support to the rail unions and rail workers, and if there's any way we could support it from oceans away, please somebody tell us, and we would love to. I think I speak in all of our names.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No, exactly right. In other news, there's been some fucking CCPP is gonna collapse any minute now.
Surely this time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As they sit behind a full wall of Funko Pops. So apparently there have been some protests in China, of which, by the way, hilariously, it's like in like 5 or 6 cities or something, and it's very highly manicured, like groups of 20 people with the blank signs, and they've been like made fun of to death on the Chinese side of the internet. So there's not some mass movement, blah blah. There's 2 protests going on right now. There's the artificial manicured, like 20 people who are most likely paid and supported by a very specific international wing against China. These people were protesting like 50 meters away from the American consulate in Shanghai, and they had very, like the usual, wave an American flag around and have and a sign in English, these types. Clear. CIA is getting really lazy with this color revolution types. And then you have the other side, which are actual protests that have been happening, which is the majority of the protesting that's going on in China, which is against COVID lockdowns, because COVID is still kind of taken very seriously in China. sometimes the lockdown laws are somewhat draconian. I understand why they have it, because they have such a large country, and such a huge population, right? So it can spread like wildfire if they allow it.
Even with these, even with these quote draconian policies, they just opened up one of the cities that has 7,000 infected during the one day. Like it's not like it's like completely COVID free and they want to lock you in your fucking house. It's important just to note that. Sorry, please continue. Even though, for example, me personally, I wouldn't agree with as intense, but I'm not a fucking COVID fighting scientist, okay? So who gives a fuck what I think or those motherfuckers? Sorry, please continue.
No, it's perfectly fine. So that was on one side. And then on the other side, there was also a bunch of, for example, some people who died in some factory as a result of some accident, which has been an earlier protest that isn't really the relevant issue being protested currently. But something that's, if you actually keep up with the news, not fucking, BBC, New York Times bullshit, but actual reliable news on these sort of things, you see a very quick pattern of whenever there is some sort of grievance of a particular part of China or some population, the government's very quick to respond and respond positively, just like the Cuban government, which is very interesting. So almost immediately, there was, for example, concerning the COVID lockdown protest, almost immediately, different local governments and governorships, regional, etc., responded by loosening certain restrictions, giving certain exceptions, etc., etc. So basically, what's the word in English? Compromising.
Compromising.
Yeah, compromising. Thank you. Compromising. I'm fucking stupid. Yeah, compromising with the protesters, which is very neat. As for the other people with English signs and all that kind of stuff, they have been fucking dragged through the dirt online as well as through in real life. You see, for example, like there's several videos of on the Chinese side of the internet. You see of like 5 of these people who are apparently the protesters for freedom, and they're surrounded by 200 like onlookers, and they're all like hurling profanities at them and being like, my favorite joke is, by the way, it's like because one of the protests were it was in Guangzhou, or however you pronounce it. I apologize. And the people replied like, "We Cantonese are very generous. If you need money, then we can give it to you," implying that they've been paid for these protests. As like, if you're that on such down in your luck, then we'll give you some more money so you don't have to do this. And people and one of the big memes is also they had the blank pieces of paper that they protest with. And on the Chinese side of the internet, people have been editing and writing like, they paid the other people like $100, but I only got 50. What the hell? Like that kind of equivalent, making fun of them, right? And of course, by the way, and none of this nuances is available on the lamestream media, which is a term I heard the other day from watching some far right conservative, which I found funny. But none of this is reported. They're just like, they're calling for Xi to step down. Which is always funny.
Yeah, it's the type of thing where no one here in the United States, speaking as the resident Yank, no one here in the United States has any of the background. Like they haven't cared about this stuff ever, and these stories pop up, and then immediately they're experts on it, and they're just so intent on preaching whatever they're told on CNN or Fox, and it's frustrating. It happens every time. It happened with Cuba with the last wave of anti-government protests, when they were in reality just tiny little demonstrations that are even questionably legitimate. It happens every single time. You'll see it happen.
It's the attention economy. People wanna, when they sit down and have their fucking little buds with their friends, they want to appear like they're up to date with the news, that they support this or that freedom movement.
That they're engaged.
Quote unquote. Yeah. And everybody's like, yeah, man, that's so fucked up, man. And then the other 3 guys pretend that they read the same article that you did. And then when they go and they sit with their other 3 friends that you don't hang out with because you listen to different types of music or some shit, they regurgitate what you just said, and it just goes on and goes on and goes on. Nobody.
And then they call the cops on a homeless person.
We make fun of, like, not make fun of, but it's cute, but we like, how do I put this? Supportingly laugh at people that say, oh, you always need to read, even though us running the show, we do, but understand that, working class people, they don't have enough time, blah, 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 blah. But in cases like this, it's genuine proof that in order to understand a more complicated situation, you might need to give it more than just a 5-minute TikTok video level of understanding of the particular situation. It should be a common understanding that for most things, you should go through one or two sources, or you should try to properly process it before opening your mouth about it. Said as we're running a podcast where we're literally commenting on a bunch of news articles that we've read only once, but you get my fucking point.
Lamar. I was going to just say one more bit, by the way, in case, because I know we usually get this whenever any sort of these very clearly manicured protests happen, and a Marxist says, hey, yeah, you know what, this is most likely supported by a certain, arm of Western interests. People are like, oh, yeah, no, you guys always say, and we always turn out right. Yeah. In this case, is also no different. There's some interesting research done by some of these, on the Chinese side, who have basically just found these entire Telegram channels being told what to say, where to show up, exactly what to say, when to say it. It's so incredibly, although also, by the way, there's some evidence that people are being paid to show up to some of these things, which, by the way, funnily enough, if you've ever been to a third world country and ever been to a protest, you'd be very, very familiar with the pattern of people being paid, either in some food or something, or in money, small sums of money, to show up to protests. Yeah. So this is not something outside of the realm of possibility. But yeah, that's just a final addendum.
Absolutely. Oh, I've been offered money at least 5 times in my life to go walk around. Be it random emails, random SMSs, or at a random bar, a guy comes in with leaflets. It's super fucking common. Moving on. After 2 decades as leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi announced on Thursday, November 17th, that she would not run for that role in the next term, which begins January 2023. Pelosi, the first and only woman to serve as Speaker, showing us that most definitely you do not need a dick in order to be corrupt and a shill for the system. And I quote, "For me, the hour has come for a new generation to lead the Democratic caucus that I so deeply respect. And I'm grateful that so many are ready and willing to shoulder this awesome responsibility." House Democrats appear likely to choose New York Representative, and I'm not fucking with you, Hakeem, who is 52, to succeed Pelosi as leader. So, Hakeem, how did you overthrow Nancy, the stock trader? Tell us your secrets. Also, I think they wrote 52 years of age. They might have gotten your age wrong, but
I'm sorry.
You never know.
I've been lying to you boys, okay? So basically, you know when Guevara had to go to Bolivia, so he changed his appearance and plucked every hair out of his head out, right? And got a fake passport. I basically went to Comrade Liz Truss, okay, or whatever her name was, and I told her, all right, you brought down the English economy. How can I bring it down the American? She just gave me a crash course, and now this is my first step. Destroying the system from the inside.
Amazing.
Oh, man.
But yes, this is very exciting. I mean, it means less than nothing, but because she's still going to be active in the House. Don't get your hopes up or anything. But she's at least not going to be the face of it for. She's 82. She's 82 years old.
She's 82. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was expecting that her replacement to be 72 or something when she was talking about young people. I mean, 52 is younger than I expected, if I'm being honest. But yeah,
world 52 is a fucking teenager,
baby,
bro.
Yeah.
But I love how they talk about side note, but the Soviet leadership was ossified. They're all these old boomers. I'm like, have you ever looked at the Senate? Have you looked at the House of Representatives? What are you on? My God. It's just the system nature of these political, there's things that can be changed to prevent this in the future. But yeah, definitely not a good thing. But
I mean, any responsibility out of Nancy's hands, that's a good thing. She's well known for being incredibly corrupt, for participating in insider trading to a greater extent than most other politicians in this country. So the sooner we see her get out of politics for good, the better off we will be.
It was super interesting reading articles about her moving out of politics after having read articles about the passing of the late Chinese chairman. And they try to do like real journalism when it comes to the chairman, where they're like introducing different opposing views, where but when it comes to Pelosi, depending on if you go to CNN or Fox, it's a very clear-cut this is a goddess that came down from heaven to give us stock trading theft, or this is the devil from the hell who came and is a woman. It's always fun to see journalistic double standards when it comes to how they see a Western politician and how they see a non-Western politician. That a Western politician, no matter how bad they are people that stand for certain ideals, people that even did go over their mistakes, and they at the end of the day do what is right, etc., etc. Well, in the rest of the world, everybody's a bit more complicated. Kind of a weird version of self-pity and self-hatred to an extent, because it lets you think that Americans think about themselves that they're much more black and white than arguably the rest of the world. But hey, it is what it is. RIP.
RIP, exactly, RIP. I mean, inshallah soon it will be a RIP at this point whenever fucking me too. Anyways, yeah. Go on, JT.
And some more depressing news. New York City is rounding up the mentally ill. The mayor says we have a moral obligation to help them by forcing them unwillingly into these facilities where they will inevitably be mistreated, as always happens in these situations like this. Everyone who works in mental health is saying this is a terrible, terrible idea, because you can't, I mean, anytime you just grab truckloads of people off the street and shove them without accountability into these facilities where there's no one to, keep track of how they're treated, this is a death sentence for a lot of these people. I mean, there's a reason these facilities are always kind of shown to be hellholes in popular media. It's because a lot of times there's a lot of abuse that goes on there because there's no accountability, and we don't have the proper infrastructure to deal with mental health crises in this country.
No, exactly right. And the issue isn't even that insidious. I think it's not only that. It's these most of the, even if you mean well, there's usually not enough staff, not enough nurses, not enough doctors to take care of these people, right? Let alone the political incentive or motive or motivation, to do that. That's number one. Number two, this is such a clear stupid PR thing, like, oh, I'm going to clean up the streets. You walk to work and you see 30 homeless people, I'm going to clean up the streets. And bad bid for re-election. This fucking garbage, right? Very fascist, I would say. I don't like using the word, but you know what I mean? It's the same, like, oh, now the trains run on time, like that. It's one of those that you're not actually getting to the root problem of why there's so many homeless people.
It's a misapprehension of what the issue is. For liberals, it's seeing the homeless people and not the systemic problems that cause homelessness.
They don't want rich people to see weird people on the street, bro. It's that fucking simple. The only people that are ecstatic about this are obviously the self-denying libs, and who else? Cops, baby. More motherfuckers to arrest, baby.
Oh my God,
in the article, they say that cops will be properly trained, etc., etc. Yeah, man. Cops are some of the cops in the United States New York cops have a bigger funding than the whole country that I fucking live in, and yet they still fucking blow children's brains out. No matter how much you fucking train them to treat a person with this or that disability correctly, they will eventually be breaking their legs and putting them in their car trunks. It's a very unfortunate turn of events for one of the world's fucking most populated cities on the planet, which indirectly obviously will just percentage-wise have a shit ton of mentally ill people. To bring better the point that Hakeem said, like, what hospitals are going to be able to fucking fulfill this? I don't know.
They're already slammed as it is.
I was just gonna say about the New York Police Department budget is 1/3 the entire GDP of Honduras.
Yeah,
It is
wild.
10.8 billion fucking dollars. It's a police state. What the fuck do they need that much money for? I mean,
They
we
need a
know
military.
why.
They need a
we
military.
know why. But by the way, I love some, what's it called? There is a article that is speaking about their budget, right, and the next year's budget specifically, and how they're lamenting that they have $83 million less this year in funding from 11.6 or something to 10.8 billion, which, oh my lord, woe was you.
Yeah. One less killdozer for the congested streets of New York. Yeah.
But like, imagine if they put this money, like, fuck it, okay, you still want to have a police department, fuck it, all right, sure, but cut that budget in half at least, and have 5 point something billion or whatever directly go into, rehousing facilities and healthcare for all these people who are on the streets, getting them help for people who may be on drug use or who may have other sorts of substance abuse, etc. So actually, targeting the core issues, employment programs, etc., etc. This is the thing. Actually, sorry.
Let's just give the police more money. Actually, I think that's a better idea.
Exactly.
New house doesn't make boom.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, because again, I'm outside the U.S., so I don't see this stuff daily, but the image that you have of homeless people in countries where homelessness isn't very common is usually, this person's homeless by choice because he either could get a house on his own or he has some extended family that would support him. So usually it's people who are either very down on their luck or they have some sort of mental disorder and things like that. Still not a good thing, but that's a bit of the public perception in places outside the US, right? But I've seen lots of footage of homeless people from the US. I've never interacted with one because I've never been to the US. But a lot of these people seem like just regular, everyday people who are down on their luck. Not to say that if somebody has a mental illness, they should be relegated to the... No, not at all. Absolutely not. But my point being is that this weird image, like, they're mentally ill, they're this and that. And most of these people are just regular fucking people who have lost their homes because the banks have taken it all and the economic situation sucks.
Yeah,
The ideological way to self-explain to yourself why somebody could arrive in that situation. If you accept that it's a part of the system for people to end up that way, then you will feel what? You will feel bad about having succeeded and ignoring them when you're passing them on the street. So let's just say they're fucking mad, or that they're junkies, or that they're alcoholics, or that they're ex-criminals. And then when I walk past them and accidentally kick their little can that has gathered $7 since the morning, I can afford to not feel bad about myself. And I don't even blame people that think this way, because that's a systematic conclusion that you have to get to in order for you to not go insane of sadness every time you see a homeless person.
Yeah.
It's depressing.
Since 2008, it has been increasingly more and more quote-unquote normal people. I think the average American doesn't really recognize just how close they are to homelessness. You are far closer to a homeless person than you are a billionaire. And it's only going to take a couple of bad months for most Americans to before you really start to have... Yeah, exactly. Before you really have to grapple with... what the actual poverty looks like. Like for me, we got our medical bill, one of them, for Evie's hospital stay. It's $21,000. And like, what happens to most people when you see a bill like that, huh? Like,
I'm just checking. YOLO. Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, and that's the reality of living in this country. It's like you step out your front door and you're going to get slapped with a multi-$1,000 bill. It's insane. It is unsustainable, and so many people suffer from this, and we wonder why there's so many intersecting crises in this country.
I'm still in fucking awe. I'm still in awe of the fucking number. I put it in the conversion right now. Jesus Christ. Dude, you could live like a king. What the hell?
Yeah.
Isn't that for like almost an entire year's salary for most American, or like a good chunk of Americans?
For a lot of Americans, yeah. And it's
Jesus.
We have good insurance too. Like I'm gonna call them and pitch a fit about it, because that's insane. Like what am I paying for if not for them to cover this shit?
But it's a really nice white BMW. Like very nice. OG jokes. Who remembers?
So exactly. Yeah, exactly.
White BMW and some what was the Persian perfume? Gucci guilty. Oh, fucking nice.
Moving on. So, I have two small tidbits for you. Most of the rest of because it's been kind of a slow news week, so we're gonna, or month, I don't know how often we do these fucking things, I forget now. But yeah, so there's a quick story. The first one is, by the way, NATO has its current meeting going on in Bucharest. And there's a fun little thing where they're discussing they're like, since NATO will be expanding into the Nordic, into Scandinavia, there's a possibility of the militarization of the Arctic. So yay, let's have fucking nuclear submarines ready at the go of a button, the press of a button. Because that's not.
You guys are stupid. This is good because eventually we will melt the whole fucking thing. Yes, and then millions will die. But we will find an ancient civilization underneath it, and we will make such good fucking Marvel movies about it.
True.
You guys just don't think long term enough.
It's just the dolphins, boys. Don't worry, the dolphins will save us.
I'm imagining like an animatronic polar bear out there, and its head tilts back, and it like goes up on its hind legs, and it can launch a warhead from there.
Basically, pretty much. So yeah, but anyways, that's just, there's like, old boomer fucking discussions, and that was just dropped as a matter of fact thing, which was fun. Yeah. And the next tidbit, which I found funny because it got a full fucking article. It's an article titled "How Immigration Made French Football Better." And it's a nice article. It just kind of talks about the hypocrisy of particularly France's internal politics in regard to their national team, which has been for at least the past 25 years almost entirely of the minority backgrounds. But one thing that I love is the Le Pen, the far right party in France. After the first World Cup win of France in 1998, they came out saying like, "Oh yeah, no, this win doesn't count for France because there's too many blacks in the team," and they were foaming at the mouth. And there's like speeches and slogans and publications. I'm like, imagine if this was your problem. There's too many. The people on my national football team are slightly too dark. It's not like unemployment. It's not women's rights or children's rights. It's not fucking care for the elderly. There's this guy is too melanin shades darker than I am. So yeah, fuck me. It's so fucking stupid. And by the, of course, the hypocrisy. It's like on one side, Macron will be like, "Oh, see, this represents the diversity and inclusion of the French Republic." Meanwhile, they advocate for hijab bans and all other sorts of criminalizing policies on people of foreign backgrounds, etc., etc. Just very pathetic. There's actually, I'll also just name two more so I can be done with my segment. The third bit of news, which is interesting, is that Canada has recently expanded its assisted suicide network or laws. I don't know if you've heard. And by the way, one of the specific things that they said is for people without foreseeable death in the near future. Jeez. What that means is that you can be euthanized, but not because you're going to die sometime, just because, right? Yeah. Which I find very funny because if you look at the people who have been, who have voiced their interest in this sort of thing, a lot of them are poor people who are down their luck. It's like some guy who is, I can't get a job and I have medical bills and other sorts of problems. I think if I were just to euthanize myself, it would be less of a burden for my family. Late stage capitalism it surely is yikes. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. And the final bit of information, because I don't want to harp on that too much, is Ukraine has asked for even more aid, of course, from NATO. And Biden, oh boy, does he write his checks. He can't fucking string 3 words together in his native language, but he sure can fucking sign those checks. Because he's sending $53 million this week to Ukraine, which is
I wonder how much it would cost to give those rail workers a day off a week.
Right. But Christ. What's going? No. Ukraine is more important than I'm not even gonna fucking get into it. But yeah, JT, just a question. How much money did the Texas government get from the federal government during the blizzard, bullshit that happened with you guys?
Let me see. No. I think it was $0. We were all left stranded.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, also I watched a thing the other day. Sorry, I'm fucking rambling on, but just for the meme, I watched a video the other day, and they got like within a hair's width of the entire grid system collapsing.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know it was that bad. I had no idea. I mean, imagine Jesus Christ, what kind of fucking racket bullshit, like, you Americans, you have a saying for it when you, like, just jam shit together.
Jury-rigged?
Jury-rigged fucking electricity network do you have? What the fuck? But yeah, anyway, so these are just my points. Daddy Biden is giving more money, and you can kill yourself if capitalism gets too much. Apparently, not the old way. Now you can go, you'll probably have to. You know what's interesting? You probably have to go sit in a chair. You have to pay a fee, and then you probably have to pay VAT. Like you have to pay tax on it.
Death tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Death tax. That reminds me on when they changed the name of what the government charges you for. Leaving your wealth to your child, and it was an inheritance tax, but the Republicans wanted to spin it into the term death tax, and then it sounds much worse because kind of the government is taxing you for being dead. And the conservatives were obviously against this, but now they are. The free market has found a solution, and they're not gonna. The government doesn't have to help us die, but usually, by sending us to wars, etc., etc. Now we can go to a private clinic and help ourselves die. It's obviously for people in great pain, people suffering, blah blah blah. This sort of solution can sometimes be understandable, but when you're offering it as if you're selling Kit Kats to motherfuckers, in my eyes at least, I might be wrong, but in my eyes it becomes not only problematic, it becomes disgusting. I mean, I would be a hypocrite for not saying what I just said, because all the time here on the podcast we talk about how fucked up is that we are commodifying everything and turning everything into a product, and we've reached a point at which we are literally killing you into a product. We are commodifying the last moments that you can have, no matter how filled with struggle they might be, in order to make a quick buck. And probably there's a surcharge to burn your body versus like properly package it and dress it up. There's going to be a VIP death. There's going to be like a acceptable, budget death, economic class death. There might be a death where like you have to come and die. No, you have to die with like 20 other people in the same room. Like all the families crying next to each other. You have to pay an extra premium shit to be in a special room.
Mass wailing.
Absolutely. If you want to take your family with you, they charge you extra to kill your kids. It's gonna be fucking
kids
phenomenal.
Under 2 die free.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Or you can.
Oh my god.
Rich, they'll establish it in developing countries, and then if you cannot afford to pay yourself to be euthanized, they can, and you have a kid, they can find an American or an English family or a French family to pay for your euthanasia, but they get to take your kid as long as they're like under 2, so they can take care of them over. No, I can absolutely see all of this fucking happening. I love this fucking planet.
This reminded me of the fucking what's it called, free cremation lottery thing, where some people did an office lottery, and these old fucking people won a free cremation, and they're standing there with a little piece of paper, right, and it's just like, smile for the fucking free. Jesus.
Oh my god. I just thought of it. Ready? Die one, get one free. Where they have special.
There we go. There we go, boys.
Do you want to die, but you do not want to see your loved ones suffer because of your death? Die one, get one free. Invite them to die with you. Okay. It's starting to get too dark even for my taste.
Moving on.
I'll quickly run through my interesting topics of the day that are remaining. And the following one is Nick Fuentes meeting with Trump influencing Kanye West. I guess YouTubers run the world now. So, House and Senate Republicans are speaking out against former President Donald Trump's dinner last week with the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, and white nationalist and Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes. Quote, "There is no room in the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy." Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said, how can your name be Mitch McConnell? That is absolutely phenomenal. Said Tuesday, quote, "And anyone meeting with people advocating that point of view, in my judgment, are highly unlikely to ever be elected president of the United States." The former president, probably 70% of your ex-presidents were that, but okay, you do you, bro. The former president dined with Cheyenne Fuentes at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida last Tuesday, where, according to Ye's official Twitter account, the rapper asked Trump, that must have been so awkward, to be his running mate for the 2024 presidential race. I would love to see Trump's face while eating that McDonald's burger. Like, what, bruv? Like, Trump, though, who recently announced his 24 presidential bid, took to his social media platforms Truth Social and on Saturday to try and clear the record. He said in a post that Ye requested the meeting for, quote, advice concerning some of his difficulties, noting that he doesn't exactly know Fuentes. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess we have made it because YouTubers, as I previously mentioned, are now influencing presidents and world-famous celebrities.
God. Nick Fuentes, he's the one who said that having sex with women is gay, right? I think that's him.
Probably at some point. At some point.
Pretty sure that's him. He's such a scrub. All these people are such losers. There's a picture of Fuentes surrounded by like MAGA hat wearing chuds on this article, and there's a particular type of white person. I'm not gonna do like that skull measuring stuff, but they all look like this. They're God, I hate them so much. They're like screaming and like patting him on the back and stuff. But about the YouTube thing, I think that's going to become more of a problem, and not just specifically YouTube, but TikTok or whatever comes next. Because there's on the other side, quote unquote, other side, you've got people like Mr. Beast who fancies himself like a philanthropist, and he does like charitable stuff, but he also has expressed a desire to like basically buy his way into politics. He wants to be president. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next decade, like all of the candidates we see running, or at least all the high profile ones, are from some form of media. We're in for even more spectacle than usual, I think.
Isn't that going to be interesting? Like the big question to ask there, I guess, is are they going to be worse than the mummies, the puppet mummies that are ruling now? Like, is a guy, he goes on a diplomatic mission abroad and he dabs on the other president and then takes a camera and like a selfie records with him and says, "Fucking own you, President Erdogan!" Ha ha! Like let's do a trend, President Erdogan. Let's do a trend, and then they plank. But we'll see. But Nick Fuentes has always been relatively influential, but never to the extent of this level. They just took Kanye and they're riding him for all his fucking money. The guy's a fucking idiot and fucking deserves it, I guess. I do not feel any pity towards his career getting completely dunked in the water. But no matter how much we joke, the president's doing dabs and live streams and saying, "Man, you're so goated." The fact that traditional media is slowly being overtaken by this new wave is absolutely undeniable, but unfortunately that does not really work at the same pace for the left wing as it does for the right, because as we all know very well, the right gets a lot of fucking money from a lot of different sources which support its rhetoric, while our rhetoric is supported by poor people who at their best can give us $5, $20, $50 on Patreon or something. I read recently, preparing for a new video that I'm working on regarding where all these people got all their seed money from, etc., etc. For example, Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens' company that they run and operate together last year made around $100 to $120 million in revenue. Obviously, this is nothing in comparison to CNN and BBC, etc., etc. But if we are to just look at things that way, that would be extremely naive. I mean, Apple was nothing in comparison to Nokia, but they had a different approach to what the phone was, and they grew exponentially. Same as with online media that usually revolves around one or two personalities that kind of carry the whole platform forward. And Nick Fuentes is just one of the early ones that will be visiting the Oval Office in the future. You can quote me on that fucking shit.
Now, quick question. I don't follow Kanye all that much, but to me, it seems pretty clear that the guy is like, his mental state is just deteriorating incredibly rapidly. Is he just a crazy guy now? Like, are people just kind of taking advantage of his fame and like using it to build their hateful platform? What's the deal?
I don't give a I don't give a fuck. You could spin Hitler as having been
I guess that's
insane and
true.
PTSD induced. I don't give a fuck.
True.
The second you start saying Jews control the media, I like what Candace Owens is saying. I do not care. I do not care. Go fuck yourself. I do not care. You're an anti-Semitic, bigoted piece of shit. I do not care. Not even for a second. But yes, he even talked about he mentioned when the doctors said openly that I might be bipolar. The doctor, you know what he was? I'm not gonna say it, but I'm gonna say it. He was a Jew. He literally said that.
Yeah.
So he even comments on like his doctors telling him that he's bipolar and calling them Jews. He might be in a manic state or whatever, but at one point, what, we should excuse sociopaths for being sociopaths. So the psychopaths, when they butcher a guy, no, fuck you, man. I don't give a fuck. An interesting news for Hakeem that are not necessarily, not Hakeem, but especially Hakeem, that are not necessarily political. I'll just touch on it very quickly, is that we are getting close to, not too close, but we are on the path towards potentially finding a way to maybe not cure, but at least alleviate Alzheimer in patients, as a study reveals. Antibody therapy, lecanemab, removes clumps of protein called beta amyloids that build up in the brain and basically, in a way, either slow down or postpone the process of let's call it, I don't know if that's the proper term, correct me if I'm wrong, but degradation basically of thought and of mind, which is very, very, very interesting. To me, that is, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that is the most terrifying disease out there. And I feel for everyone that might be going through it. So any step in the direction of alleviating either the pain or completely destroying this fucking thing is a piece of great news to hear. And here I just had a little touch on statistics that I will not bother you too much with on where we are at, because the year is ending when it comes to inflation. As many of you most definitely know, unless you're very young and lucky and supported by wonderful parents that support you, you might have noticed that they're either giving you more money or that the money that your parents are giving you is no longer feeding you as much as it used to. And for the rest of you who make their own money, you have definitely felt it. Inflation has thankfully though seen stabilizing out at below 10% in most developed economies, with the UK kind of topping the chart still at around 11 to 12%, and Japan going down to a basically regular level of 3.8%. In the US, we are now at 7.7%. In Germany, we are at a pretty high 10%. I'm talking about countries whose regular inflation rates before 2022 were in the 1% and 1.5%. Does this mean that we are out of the woods, as they say? No, it most definitely does not. But at least for the coming winter, unless something extraordinarily intense happens, the inflation rates should slowly be going down. Inflation rates, what could that be very important for you? Obviously, your daily buying habits, your foods, your deodorants, your dishwasher, detergents, etc., but also for those of you who might own property or plan to buy your own home, etc. There is unfortunately no direct proof that property prices will be falling, but there is also no direct proof that property prices will continue to increase at the same pace as they have up until now. Just for people that might not have looked at the market recently, if we look at, for example, Germany in the 2015s, if we say an apartment cost $100, now it costs $201. If 2015 UK, if it cost $100, now it costs $170. In Canada, if it cost $110, now it costs $208. Basically, owning a house or an apartment is borderline fucking impossible, and it's become even more impossible in the last 5 to 6 years. But I guess good news, which is like when an ambulance runs you over, is that they're not estimated to continue rising. But again, not estimated to lowering. So yeah, just information dump of some relative statistics at you to, I guess, round out this episode of the Deprogram.
Not that much, happening, but it's good. No news is good news, as Americans say. I don't want to live in the interesting times spoken of in Chinese curses. But we already do, sadly. That's the
last 2-3 years.
Rip us.
We were complaining, oh, Mom, it's very boring. Do you even remember what feeling bored was like? I'm talking pre-phones. Remember pre-phones?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ. You would sit in a room and you would literally say, like, what am I going to do with myself? And now you just turn on the Deprogram podcast and you know what to do with yourself.
And that's a nice way to wrap up almost the end of the year. All right. So we'll see you guys again very soon. Hopefully before Christmas. Who knows? With that being said, now they're doing the Spotify Wrapped stuff, right? And a bunch of people have put up on the Discord and sent us on Twitter and whatnot that we're their number one podcast, which is a vibe. So keep doing that, please.
Yes.
If we are your number one podcast. Because you're
5,000 plus minutes. What the fuck, bro?
There was one person with 14,808 minutes. That's you listen to each episode like 3 times. We're glad you enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Honestly, because I remember I bring this up every episode, but I don't know how people fucking listen to us, but somehow they do. So, but that
don't say shit.
Exactly. But that, and also of course, we couldn't do this without the great support of our lovely patrons. So big thanks to those people, specifically the Habibis. We have fun chatting with them every month when we do our Habibi chat. So take a look on the Patreon if you ever want to join that. It's always a vibe. And of course the subreddit as well. Always fresh memes on there. It's getting stupidly big. We're almost
it's growing
10,000.
so fast.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so go take a look there as well. And yeah, that's about it. We love you all. This has been the Deprogram. I'm Hakeem.
I'm JT.
And I'm Ugopnik. Comrades, please don't die, and especially don't pay for it.
Stay out of the booth. Stay out of the booth.